So
yes.
What this might end up being, chat, is that much like how Cabal is somewhat of an attempt to rebuild society's trust networks because our establishment can no longer be trusted, it may be that the future of humanity will be far less the separate and only connected by like our internet lines, human engagement with technology, with the world through a computer screen, and far more the verifiable via trust networks. You'll have to know people. That's what we're moving towards. Is we're moving away from the impersonal, somewhat inhuman, sort of globalized, technocratic world that was envisioned as being our future until we saw just how good AI is, to instead internet villages. We're just resetting back to village life, but on the internet instead, where the only way that you can sort of engage with other forms of life in the universe, but be they human or AI, is to have engaged with them for so long and so directly that they couldn't have been faked. Which is kind of what we do in Cabal. The chances of anyone in Cabal that we're like actively acquainted with being a Fed is pretty low because it would take so much work to keep up that acting and for so little benefit. Something like that will probably become more normal, but you could still fake that. You could still fake that.
You could fake it. However, I think you're actually onto something there. Is that we will become atomized. Well, we're already atomized as fuck, but I think become more atomized to the point where we will form these probably little communities where it's like these are the people that I can trust as being actual other people, and for the most part, and
what if you have like
there?
I've had this friend online for 2 years. We've shared a lot of experiences together, and we finally agreed to meet in real life. Now I know they exist.
Exactly.
You didn't before. You had no idea they existed before. But as soon as you meet in real life and they act the same way, now you can trust that person is who they say they are online, unless they're supplanted or something. So that may be what it is. You have to meet them to trust them, and then you know you're interacting with a real person. But it may come to the point that you try and meet with someone and they say, so I don't really want to meet with people in real life. At that point, 50-50 on whether you've been friends with an AI for 2 years.
Right. I mean, like that's the thing that's kind of funny about that again. Like, again, having met all those people from the Geeks and Gamers cohort, whatever you want to call it, and then hanging out with the Lotus Eaters cohort, hanging out with you and Motch, it's like there is something that's different about being with people in real life that does make it. Even though I've met you and Motch before, but like there is something that makes it different than internet interaction. I would say alone. No, I'm kind of an expert on that actually, but a spider expert, you might say. But there is something that is unique about that. I think that you're right, is that will become increasingly important about necessary of interpersonal physical interaction with the other person, of seeing them face to face. That really, man, oh my God, when I go back and look at the old CMC research, computer mediated communications, what CMC stands for, wow, we had no idea this would ever have been the outcome. When you go back and read that old CMC research, it's so light side, it's so positive. It's just like they're just thinking like, oh, the great things we can do with this stuff. And there's no thought of the possible negative or deleterious aspects.
It's much like
crazy.
A lot of communist thinking, where specifically the idea is if we change these things, people will do this instead. Like if we reassign wealth, then the wealthy will continue to be wealthy, just a bit less, and their money will be reassigned to the poor without the assumption, without considering what the people in the system will do as a reaction to your changes to it. Communists usually fail to make that assumption, to make that consideration, and a lot of less intelligent people always or very often do. When they're trying to change something, they don't account for what their changes will affect. And in this case, if we're talking about sort of like optimism about how communication technology will increase our interactions with each other, they were not thinking about how humans of the future would change to fit the technology, they were
Of
thinking
course
about
not.
how they and theirs could be amplified, and people like them, their abilities could be amplified in the best case scenario. But we have to assume we have to consider both. Technology is not just
Well,
molding to us;
yes.
we are molding to it.
Yes, yes, exactly. They are symbiotic sort of relationships between man and technology.
Yeah.